Hello, my lovely audience. So, this is What If Deku was the Joker reboot. So, is he going to have a quirk? No. Is he going to have a tragic backstory that is going to be really sad? Yes. So, let's get into that. So, Deku is going to be, well, he is not going to be a lonely child in this, as in Bakugou is going to join the family because his parents were murdered. And Bakugou isn't really going to have exactly an angry life, as in he's not going to be mad at Deku all the time. In fact, he's more annoyed at him because he would always call him his little brother and treat him like a little brother whenever he was crying and all that. He's always there for him. And Bakugou, yes, appreciates this, but also we know how he is, and he is going to probably scream at Deku. But at the same time, Deku's going to want to become a hero, and he's going to prove that he can by taking care of Bakugou. So, what does he end up doing? Simple. Well, he basically takes care of him like a little brother, even though Bakugou's older, and Deku's going to be much more of a parental person to him, and kind of guardianship in his life. And I'm going to say that Deku gets a nickname, the Joker, because he's always cracking jokes, and he's always been a jokester in his class in this world. So, what does end up happening? When Deku is 10, he is kidnapped by a terrorist organization called the Red Hood Gang that basically kidnap children and kill their parents and blow up big areas. As in, this is what happens. They're just starting up, so immediately what ends up happening here is this. They kidnap a bunch of kids, about 50 of them, and their parents, make an hour-long video and put it on loop so they can show their parents are quote-unquote alive, and basically say, do what we tell you or else they die, when really they're already dead. And what ends up happening here is this. When Deku is told to make certain things, bombs, explosives, gas, all these things, it's all on a suicide vest. And immediately, he is forced to, well, almost immediately. It's been about 4 weeks. He hasn't seen his mother. He hasn't seen Bakugou. He worries for Bakugou. And what ends up happening here is this. He's forced to go to a chemical plant in a van wearing a red hood. And is then forced with many other kids, while they're all shaking, scared. He's silent, ready for this. He's ready to go ahead and run off and try and save his family. When he gets there, he is immediately escorted by a man with a gun. And he immediately kicks him in the balls and starts running. That's when the heroes arrive and try and crash in and tell him to stop and freeze. And he's saying that they're telling us if we don't blow this place up, then we won't be able to see our families. And they said, well, the hero says, I'm going to say this is O'Clock saying this. If you don't know who O'Clock is, you haven't seen the Vigilante series. And he says, sorry kid, but your family's dead. There's been a bunch of bodies that are found about this Red Hood gang. It's their MMO, MMO, I think it is? MMO? Anyways, you know what I mean. Their usual stuff that they do. And MO, that's it. And their MO. And basically what ends up happening here is this. Deku's world kind of comes falling apart, and he thinks, well, Bakugou's dead, his mother's dead. He has no one he can protect if he becomes a hero. There's no reason for him to become a hero. So, why not end it? And that's when he decides to jump into the vat of chemicals, throwing his vest towards the hero and detonating it, blowing up the entire place, because here's the thing. It's when one bomb goes off, all the other bombs go off. Meaning he just kind of killed everybody except certain heroes that were able to get out of there in time, like O'Clock. And oh boy, this is going to be interesting because so many explosions happened across the city, and Deku got thrown into the chemical vats and was sent going through the sewer system and out of the, drainage. And Mealy comes out taking off the hood and immediately seeing his reflection. Scarred face wearing a hood. Carries the hood with him as he's going out towards the public, and immediately the public is screaming in terror, running around. And Deku, his face hurting, seeing the world, how it's burning, the chaos, how it all sort of just starts making sense to him. And that's when he decides he knows what he's going to do. He smiles, ever so hurting, his cheeks starting to bleed with a smile as it hurts so much, but it feels so right. Seeing that his blood is now, it is still red, but if anyone were to test it, they wouldn't be able to find, no one compatible with it. As in, his blood is completely toxic to other people. And also, he's immune to several poisons and toxins and quirks, in a way. He's also been, how do I put it? His age is going to be decelerated. And, he's going to be having a lot of pluses to being in that chemical vat. And what ends up happening next is this. Deku, he starts doing something interesting. He starts training, getting ready for the ultimate fight against villains and heroes, going into the hacker space and immediately pushing everything he has into it, working a day shift as being a construction worker, and sending money to what he found out that Bakugou was not dead, and that the heroes lied to him, adding another target on his list besides villains and terrorist organizations, diving so deep into the hacker space that he's basically becoming, the number one hacker in the world, but not in the universe. And what ends up happening next is this. Deku, he basically becomes feared in a way, because any villain that actually has crossed him when he was making deals with weapons and stuff immediately were slashed and gutted, and also poisoned with some sort of laughing gas, and explosions are all over the place, as in they're all over the walls, really. And I'm going to say that he's basically gathering info about all kinds of groups all over the city. And when the USJ event happens, I'm going to say that Deku is the one that breached their security systems and was able to get into their files and everything about the class and systems and everything like that. Still sending money to Bakugou, he immediately is going to be, going through UA's servers and implanting his own little back door, one that will not be able to be seen. And seeing how he was able to hack into that, he was able to also get access to other places as well, being able to Trojan horse his way in and basically be kind of seen as one of their own, as in the system can't detect him going through their files and everything. And what ends up happening next is this. Bakugou becomes the successor of One for All, still crying his eyes out every night when he sees the picture of him and Izuku hanging out, missing him ever so slightly, but still getting, money sent to him by a person named Mr. J. And Deku going out in a hood, committing crimes, killing people even. And what he ends up doing next is horrible, because, after the USJ event, he starts looking into the hero killer's stain and how he's wearing red. And that's how, that's his color, something that he chose. So he decides to go after the copycat. And decides to go after him in an interesting way. He tracks him down during the sports festival Deku's watching Bakugou fight in awe. Amazement, really. Bakugou would have had been a lot more against using his quirk when he was younger because it would remind him of his parents. But Aizawa and Deku would have said the exact same thing. It's your quirk, use it. They'd be proud to see you use it. And Aizawa would be more of a father figure now to Bakugou and Deku being more of a brother-like figure to him. Little does Bakugou know that he's not dead, and he still somewhat feels that he's with him, and that he's not dead, and actively searches. Because out of the 49 bodies, one was missing. One kid. Although they think that one of the bodies was him, but they don't know. They're still looking for that missing body. And they think it was Zuko, but no one can confirm who the bodies are because some of them are so badly burned or some are so badly contaminated with the chemicals or drowned or something. They don't know who any of these people are. They can't identify any of them. All of them have green hair and bleached skin and red lips and green eyes. Now, for what ends up happening next is this. Deku tracks Stain down when he's about to kill Ida. And that's when he rushes in wielding a crowbar, hitting Stain in the back and having Stain dodge almost immediately from getting hit into the wall and immediately cutting Deku and licking his blood and then start gagging, start puking up, and some of his puke is mixed with blood. And he starts puking it up, feeling horrible. And that's when Deku pulls out a gun, aims it at him, fires. But only thing that comes out is a flag that says, bang. And what does he do next? Next, Stain was frozen, well, thinking that it was the end for him. But not really. And that's when Deku does something interesting. He pulls the trigger again. Stain, not realizing what is happening, sees the flag go straight into his neck, hitting his main arteries and windpipe, having him drown in his own blood, dropping to the ground in pain. And that's when Deku looks down at Ida, who is now afraid of this red-hooded maniac, who's been seen on the news on surveillance footage as killing people randomly. And that's when he puts a knife into Ida's arm, telling him, "Don't go trying to be a hero. It'll only get you hurt, kid. Quit while you're ahead." Ida, in fear by this maniac, releasing some insane amount of bloodlust and terrifying aura that basically scares him to the core. And because the League of Villains doesn't know how to approach Deku, they decide to do it in the only way they know how. Hire a hacker that knows how to get in touch with him. And they get in touch with him by calling out to the Red Hood, which is what the media has called him, the Red Hood. Probably the ringleader behind the Red Hood gang. But they don't know. Or one of the last survivors. No one knows. Media speculates, but no one knows. So, what ends up happening next is this. What ends up happening next is, well, League of Villains get in contact with him, come meet him up, and they wonder who he really is. They want him to take off the hood, but he refuses to do so. Says that he'll take it off when he's ready for putting on a big show. And he comes in with a cane that has a blade, and immediately holds it up to Toga's neck when she gets close to him with a knife. And says, "Thus, if you come at me again with that, I will slit your throat and feed it to your slit your throat and then feed it to a dog who very much needs the protein." Toga backing up, immediately feeling the fear, and immediately everyone in the room feeling what she is feeling. The fact that they are speaking to someone that basically is the Grim Reaper here. One that they cannot track who he is by, fingerprints or even blood, or even saliva. Hair follicles prove nothing. Everything cannot be tracked. And they try to even track and figure out what kind of blood he has. He definitely has decelerated aging because he looks fairly young. So they think it's some kind of criminal mastermind. But his growth is insanely high. He's much taller than he is in the anime. And, he's also highly intelligent. It's almost like he left them his DNA. And what ends up happening next is this. When All For One meets Deku, he's immediately trying to go through his mind. I'm going to say that All For One has some type of telepathic ability, that when he touches him, he's able to see into their mind. And when he sees into Deku's mind, he sees a world full of corpses, him on top of a throne looking over it, and immediately sees death and destruction raining down. And what ends up happening next is this. All For One immediately feeling this fear, this intense fear, seeing even his own corpse on the pile of bodies. All For One feeling the most terrifying fear, his arms ripped off, his legs ripped off, everything, just showing his face, his masked face. All For One immediately feeling the fear and immediately backing away from Deku and clenching the table that's right behind him. I would say there's a table right behind him, why not? And immediately says, as long as you don't go after my family, I will not hurt you. And Deku looks at him and he sees somewhat of where his eyes would be. A feeling of immense fear upon him. And Deku just laughs. No problemo. And immediately, the room is quiet. Mr. Little Decay Hands speaks up, Shigaraki, saying, so, we're gonna attack a little training camp or what? And when they attack the training camp, Deku goes out, following Muscular. And Muscular says he can't wait to kill this kid. So Deku goes ahead of him, saying that he'll look for the kid. And if he can't find him, then you go ahead and have your best luck. That's when Deku goes out and tries to find Koda. And that's when he sees Koda hiding in a cave. And that's when he goes up to Koda and says to him, worry not, kid. I'm not going to hurt you. And immediately Koda would be backing up, terrified that he sees the Red Hood, the one that's been seen on the news killing people. And people have shot at him, people have tried to hurt him and tried to, take him in, but no one's ever succeeded. And I'm going to say that what he ends up doing here is this. You must hide now. Otherwise, a very bad man will come for you and try and do what he did to your parents. And he immediately, Koda is scared, seeing the hood, his green eyes behind the lenses. And immediately Deku takes off the hood, showing that he's not that bad of a person, showing his eyes pleading for him to actually please stay hidden and find a better hiding spot, to go back to where it's safe, to where the heroes are. Even if he hates the heroes so much, they basically took everything away from him. They could have at least saved him a little bit better. But he sees this kid as being something he can save. As a person, not a hero. Nor as a villain. So what does he end up doing? Deku puts his hood back on and goes back to where Muscular is and says, have your fun and try and look for him. Muscular would look through the cave and find nothing. Find footprints. But that's about it. And Deku just saying that he ran off when I saw him, so I didn't really think why not going after him. And what ends up happening next is this. They immediately capture Bakugou, not Todoroki, because I will say that some circumstances they prevent being able to capture Todoroki. So they capture Bakugou. And they start beating him to a pulp. Each of the villains beating him up. Only villain there that actually was able to get away besides Mr. Compressed twice, Dabi, Toga, was muscular. And him and Deku were supposed to stand guard. And this is when Deku starts working, setting up the explosives that he is going to be used to make his grand opening. Because he knows that they're tracking this position. He knows about the tracking device, but he's waiting. So he sets up explosives around the area for his main event. Gets ready for hacking into some type of, news chopper or anything. And gets to set up his own camera on a rooftop. And immediately, what ends up happening here is this. He was right. Heroes did come. And what does he do before that? Because he wants there to be an epic battle, he decides to save Bakugou. And save him he does, by walking up to Muscular, dancing around, Muscular chuckling, wondering what in the world he's doing, and Deku pulling a gun on him and aiming it at him. And immediately pulls the trigger, and immediately a bang flag comes out. Muscular stumbling back, saying, "You really got me there. That was really funny." And immediately, behind the hood, he smiles and says, "That's not the funny part, big boy." Fires the gun, shooting the flag right into Muscular's other eye, hitting him through and hitting him at the brainstem, killing him instantly, having him drop to the ground, dead. And then, going into the room, humming his tune, seeing Bakugou chained up, and immediately he goes to the chains and breaks them with a knife. With a kukri. A curry. Kukri? Kukri? Kuri? That blade? Someone put in the comments the correct pronunciation. And he breaks the chains with it. And immediately Bakugou is beaten very badly. He can't really see that well. And Bakugou would be very terrified and scared. Bakugou immediately seeing that Deku takes off his hood, throws it to the ground, picks him up, almost recognizing the hair and the smell that he's giving off, and just the overall feeling that he knows the person. His vision is so blurry he can't see, wishing he could see. And carrying him out to where, he sees his friends easily. And immediately carries him out, and puts him on the ground steadily. And this is when he, puts him there on the ground, very calmly, giving him an injection of some sleeping drugs to ease his pain just a bit, just so he can relax, and says, "Get well soon, Kanchan." Bakugou immediately recognizing that as he's passing out, immediately saying, "Wait, Deku," and then passing out. Deku would immediately start walking towards where he's going to have his lovely little show. And immediately, everything is set up, every little piece. And that is when Deku immediately sets up his gun, pulls out a very large revolver, aims it on the very nice ledge of the building, and with just good accuracy, fires one loud round it even has the chopper get some turbulence, and immediately hits All For One right in the back, breaking his spine. Actually, no, I'm going to say it hits All Might in the back, hitting him in his side, and basically completely injuring him very badly, and then hitting All For One in the stomach, then in the spine, breaking his spine, shattering it, and having a bullet wedged right into his spinal cord, preventing him from being able to move his legs, crippling him completely. And then that is when the news chopper puts their light on Deku, who is immediately basking in the light, and turns on the computer and flips on the camera and then puts on his own little broadcast to the world, hacking into the broadcast of the fight, and immediately puts it on and says, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Joker, proudly representing chaos," and immediately shows off himself to everyone, his smile and all, and immediately pulls out a knife and says, "This little knife represents your heroes, and this knife represents your villains." And me, lighting a match on the ground, throwing the knives on the floor, and the fire chaos. Laughing maniacally, crazily, whatever. And immediately starts, smiling and saying, "I'm the Joker, the one you call the Red Hood, and the one who's been, doing some very well done hacking into the UA servers and all over the place, called the Red Hood. But anyways, where was I? Yes. As you can see, your very own hero All Might is now crippled, and his number one arch enemy, the so mysterious Awful One, who's just a pawn in my opinion, is, taken down for you. So, what do I want? The world to burn, pulling out a detonator and hitting the detonator, having the entire area around them explode, him laughing and jumping up in excitement. Now this is where we have fun. And that's when the news chopper immediately gets their camera back and immediately shows the widespread of the explosions, forming a smile, as Deku laughs into a microphone and saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I proudly present to you a night to celebrate. Hail to chaos, hail to crime." And then pulling out another detonator and exploding it, having the chopper blow up, flying out of control and into the crash where All for One and All Might are fighting. And that's when Deku starts skipping his way off to the rooftop, jumping across rooftops as heroes try to go after him, but never being able to catch him. And what ends up happening next is this. Heroes all around are watching the tape, trying to figure out who this person is. Sir Night-Eye even trying to find out who he is. Everyone trying to find out who this maniac is, calling himself the Joker, and who in the world gave him that stupid smile. But in all, Deku goes back, putting on his lovely makeup so he may go back to working in construction, so he may have more fun. And, he ends up having, sending more money to Bakugou under a new name, the Joker. And immediately leaves his humble abode. And when the police track it down, because he would report this, and immediately, police get to his place. As soon as they step in, gas fills the room, and they all start laughing. Their eyes are opening, and pupils dilating, and their smile is so big and wide and beautiful, and then laughing until they die. And what ends up happening next is simple. When the heroes come in with gas masks and the police come in with gas masks, they all hear one thing. Deep, 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 deep. Boom! One fiery explosion, leaving nothing behind and blowing everything up to Kingdom Come. Everything being leveled in the area, completely forming another smile across the city. And immediately happening is this. What happens next? You'll have to find out in the next part. Have a good day and a good night, my lovely audience. Peace out.